Hello and welcome to my channel. Use Spartan here, and in this episode we will fight the Battle of Zama. The Battle of Zama was fought in 202 BC in what is now Tunisia between a Roman army commanded by Scipio Africanus and a Carthaginian army commanded by Hannibal. The battle was the final engagement of the Second Punic War and resulted in such a severe defeat for the Carthaginians that they capitulated, while Hannibal was forced into exile. This video is dedicated to the legend of Total War. I am a big fan of him, who, with his own video of this battle, inspired me to explore the strategy, the terrain, and find alternative ways of effectively dealing with the excessive difficulty level of this specific battle on Legendary mode. We will analyze that part later.
In 202 BC, the Second Punic War between Rome and Carthage looked to be nearing its conclusion. Despite the stunning successes of the Carthaginian commander, Hannibal, in Italy, the Roman general Scipio had invaded Africa and was threatening Carthage herself. Carthage recalled Hannibal and his army to fight Scipio. Hannibal and Scipio were the two best commanders of their age, neither general having lost a battle before. They would finally meet at Zama.
Okay, we will briefly analyze the actual historical battle for those who want to learn some interesting details. If you want to skip it, no problem, then go to 12 and 34 of the video. As we saw previously in the video of the Battle of Cannae, at the outset of the Second Punic War, in 218 BC, a Carthaginian army led by Hannibal invaded mainland Italy, where early achieved a number of stunning victories at Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae. After that last battle, many of the cities of South Italy revoked their allegiance to Rome and pledged their loyalty to Hannibal. The Romans used the attritional strategy that Fabius had taught them, which, they finally realized, was the only feasible means of defeating Hannibal. The Romans deprived Hannibal of a large-scale battle and instead assaulted his weakening army with multiple smaller armies in an attempt to both weary him and create unrest in his troops. For the next few years, Hannibal was forced to sustain a scorched earth policy and obtain local provisions for protracted and ineffectual operations throughout southern Italy. His immediate objectives were reduced to minor operations centered mainly around the cities of Campania. Carthage was overstretched and unable to match Rome's resources. He was never able to bring about another grand decisive victory that could produce a lasting strategic change. Hannibal's army stayed and campaigned in southern Italy for around 14 more years. Now, an interesting detail is that among the few survivors of the massacre of Cannae was a young Roman military tribune named Publius Cornelius Scipio. Scipio came from a major patrician family with many of its members holding multiple consulships. His father and uncle were in command of Rome's armies in Spain, but when they were killed in battle fighting Hannibal's brothers in 211 BC, Scipio was elected by the assembly to take over. That was an extraordinary act, as he was the first person to have been given proconsular imperium without having held consular office. Scipio's campaign in Iberia was a huge success, with repeatedly defeating the Carthaginians, taking over the city of Carthago Nova, or else New Carthage, which was thought to be impregnable, and ultimately kicking them out of the peninsula in 5 years. He returned to Rome and was appointed consul in early 205 BC, with Sicily given as his consular province, which was the best location for the Romans to launch an invasion of the Carthaginian homeland from and then logistically support it. Scipio had permission to cross to Africa on his own judgment. In 216 BC, the survivors of the Roman defeat at Cannae had been formed into 2 legions and sent to Sicily. They formed the core of the Roman expeditionary force. Scipio spent the following year on Sicily doing preparations for the invasion, training his army, assembling a vast quantity of food and material, merchant ships to transport it and his troops, and warships to escort the transports. His army was described as being superbly trained when it left Sicily. In late 205, early 204 BC, his army landed near the Carthaginian port of Utica. The Carthaginians and their Numidian allies were repeatedly beaten in battle, and the Roman ally Massinissa became the leading Numidian ruler. Scipio and Carthage entered into peace negotiations, while Carthage recalled armies from Italy commanded by Hannibal and Mago. During the journey back, Mago died of his battle wounds. The Roman Senate ratified a draft treaty, but when Hannibal arrived from Italy, Carthage repudiated it. The Romans retaliated by methodically capturing Carthaginian-controlled towns in Carthage's hinterland and selling their inhabitants into slavery, regardless of whether they had surrendered before being attacked or not. Scipio probably anticipated that these attacks would create pressure on the Carthaginians to dispatch an army to face him as soon as possible, rather than wait until it had recruited to maximum strength and was fully trained. The Carthaginian Senate repeatedly ordered Hannibal to advance from his base at Hadrumetum and deal with Scipio's army, but Hannibal delayed until he had been reinforced by 2,000 Numidian cavalry who were reputed to be elite troops. Hannibal believed, correctly, that the Roman army had not yet been joined by its Numidian auxiliaries under Massinissa, and so had the Carthaginian army march inland for 5 days and camp not far from the town of Zama. But while the Carthaginians were en route, Massinissa arrived at the Roman camp with 10,000 Numidians. Scipio's army had around 30,000 soldiers, 24,000 infantry, of which 18,000 were Romans and 6,000 Numidians, 6,000 cavalry, 2,000 of them Romans and 4,000 Numidians. The Roman army was outnumbered by the Carthaginians, who fielded around 50,000 soldiers, 46,000 infantry and only 4,000 cavalry. Hannibal also deployed 80 war elephants, the first time these are recorded as being used since Scipio invaded. Scipio arranged his lines, but, instead of a continuous, unbroken line across the field, set the soldiers in columns. The gaps in these columns were masked by light infantry toward the front, making it appear as though Scipio had formed his men in the same way as Hannibal had his. To the Roman army's left wing were the Italian cavalry, and to the right, the Numidian cavalry of Massinissa. The Carthaginian deployment reflected the fact that Hannibal's command was made up of the survivors of 3 different armies. Its first line was made up largely of veterans of Mago's failed expedition to northern Italy. They were mostly mercenary troops, consisted of Iberians, Gauls, and Ligurians. In front of these heavy infantry were light infantry skirmishers consisting of Balearic slingers, more archers, and more and Ligurian javelin men. The total strength of this component was 12,000 men. In front of these infantry were the 80 war elephants, evenly spaced along the line. Carthaginians and other Africans made up the second line. They were either survivors of the earlier campaigns whose morale was poor or freshly raised recruits who had received little training. The strength of the second line is not known, but it is sometimes assumed by modern historians to have consisted of a further 12,000 men. About 200 meters, 700 feet, behind the Carthaginian second line were the infantry Hannibal had brought back from Italy. They included Africans, Iberians who had left Iberia with Hannibal more than 17 years before, and Gauls recruited in northern Italy in 218 and 217 BC. All were battle-hardened veterans. This third line is variously estimated at 20 to 22,000 men by modern historians. Hannibal placed his Numidians cavalry on his left flank, facing Massinissa's Numidians, and the other African cavalry on the right. The fighting opened with a charge by the Carthaginian elephants. Scipio ordered his men to hold their positions, and then, at a given signal, the light infantry masking the front line moved into the columns and, at the same time, Scipio ordered his trumpets to blow, drums beat, and possibly rhythmically Romans banged their weapons against their shields. The elephants ran harmlessly for Romans through the alleys between the columns amid showers of javelins, or, startled by the trumpet blasts and the loud shouts of the Romans, turned around to trample the Carthaginian forces. Hannibal's elephant charge had failed. Some of the elephants retreated through the Carthaginian cavalry on each wing and disorganizing them. The Roman cavalry units on each wing took advantage to charge their counterparts, rout them, and pursue them off the battlefield. With the battlefield cleared of both elephants and cavalry, all 3 ranks of the Roman heavy infantry and the first 2 of Carthaginian advanced towards each other. The Carthaginian third rank, Hannibal's Italian veterans, remained in place. The 2 front ranks charged enthusiastically and violently into each other and commenced a hard-fought, close-quarter, hand-to-hand combat. The Romans' superior weaponry and organization eventually told, and despite the hostility taking further heavy losses, the Carthaginian front rank broke and fled. They attempted to make their way through the Carthaginian second rank, but these men refused to let them pass, according to Polybius, to the point of fighting them off. The survivors of the front rank were forced to make their escape around the flanks of the second rank. Many of these then rallied and rejoined the fight by extending the flanks of the Carthaginian second rank. The Hastati had taken heavy losses and the Romans were forced to commit their second line, the Principes. The battle was fierce, but ultimately the Romans broke the Carthaginians. Hannibal now activated his third line. The Romans recalled the pursuing Hastati by sounding bugles and reformed their line. The Carthaginian third line, Hannibal's veterans supplemented by some of the survivors of the first and second lines, was longer than the Roman formation and outflanked it on both sides. There was a pause, during which the Romans formed a single extended line to match that of the Carthaginians. These two lines charged each other, according to the near-contemporary historian Polybius, with the greatest fire and fury. At one point, it seemed that Hannibal was on the verge of victory. At this same time, the combined cavalry of Romans and Masiniss's Numidians, having routed the Carthaginian cavalry, returned to attack the Carthaginian forces in the rear. Being fiercely engaged to their front, the Carthaginian infantry were helpless to prevent the Roman cavalry from charging into their rear. Their line collapsed and there was a great massacre. Hannibal was one of the few Carthaginians to escape. Now let's see our troops in the game battle. Like in the historical battle, our troops are outnumbered. We have in total 15 infantry units, 5 weaker Hastati, 5 stronger Principes and 5 spear units, the Triarii. The positive thing is that both Hastati and Principes have projectiles to throw, the so-called pylons. The Carthaginians have 21 infantry units. 6 of them are mercenary Celtic warriors and 4 Libyan infantry. These are sword-handling units and have projectiles to throw too, like our infantry units. The rest are spear-handling units. 3 weak citizen militia for strong Carthaginian hoplites and 4 ultra-strong sacred bands. We both have 2 missile units, we have 2 short-range velites and they have 2 long-range Balearic slingers. In cavalry we have advantage with 3 against 2 Numidian skirmishers and 3 auxiliary cavalry against 2 Carthaginian cavalry. And above of all these, we have to deal with these 2 units of African war elephants.
Subscribe to my channel, bro. Thank you.
Okay, let's go.
Hannibal and Scipio finally meet on the battlefield. Scipio is able to bring experienced legionaries to the battle. Hannibal, meanwhile, is forced to rely mostly on mercenaries and fresh recruits, keeping his most elite troops in reserve. With his Numidian allies, Scipio has a cavalry advantage over Hannibal's horsemen. Yet Hannibal still has his war elephants. The Romans must find a way to deal with this threat. The outcome of the Second Punic War hinges on the result of this battle.
First of all, everybody withdraw behind that line of trees.
Commander, now is the time to strike and defeat Carthage.
We will stay with our Numidian cavalry to deal with those elephants.
The enemy elephants charge, a terrible sight.
Until they come closer, we have a little time to organize our troops into the trees for our little trap. We will place there our melee cavalry and our Triarii to increase the covered space and trap more easily and effectively their horse units. I don't want any of the Hastati, the Principes or Velites to waste any of their ammo on nearby broken troops, so we send them there and deactivate them for now. We don't have much time because immediately after the elephants are depleted, the whole enemy army starts marching against us. This comes close to the actual historical battle because in the beginning Hannibal sent only his elephants expecting them to cause some disturbance into Romans' ranks and then attack while they were disorganized. That unit usually comes faster than the other. Hannibal delayed seeking battle to give his army time to train up a force of elephants. Such forces had been fielded earlier in the war in both Italy and Iberia. Hannibal had famously taken elephants over the Alps in 218 BC. It is unclear why Carthage was not able to field a force of fully trained war elephants at Zama, or at any time since Scipio invaded. As we said previously, the Romans handled effectively the elephants, creating gaps in the formation, letting them pass through, and banged their shields and sounded trumpets to panic them. According to historians, the fact that the war elephants were so easily panicked suggests that at least some of the animals were young and inexperienced at battle, making them a liability rather than an asset. Now that we have killed the first unit of elephants, I am sending one of my skirmishers there, to be in close position and lure quickly the enemy Carthaginian cavalry from that side of their army. So let's see the script of the battle. As Legend of Total War has significantly analyzed, in Phase 1 they send the elephants, and the rest of their army doesn't even make a single move until all of the elephants are killed. We can exploit this fact, leaving one or two of the elephants alive running around, and send our skirmishers to exterminate at least the one unit of their Carthaginian cavalry without triggering them and without even taking one casualty. This is a similar strategy like we did at Kenny with our slingers harassing the mindless mass of infantry which was passing by and later stationed immobile until we get closer and trigger it. And this could benefit us the most. But in this video we won't do that. We will not stall Phase 1 to deal them more casualties, we will kill all of them and we will get straight into Phase 2 where everyone starts marching towards us. I have them positioned with their back to the elephants, so, if needed, they can immediately start moving and running away if they are approached. If we have them face to face, we will lose time to maneuver the horses and they can catch us. And we should avoid getting close to their center because there are stationed their Balearic slingers. As Legend said, he would be impressed if anyone wins this battle on a different strategy, so I hope this fight will meet his expectations, not only for the strategy of forest traps and the infantry formations later, but also for the least possible casualties. Let's see what will happen. Okay, one left. Now here we go.
The enemy are bereft. Their elephants lie slain. Now they advance on foot.
My plan is dividing Phase 2 in 5 main steps. Step 1, quickly luring the enemy Numidian skirmishers to chase us and getting rid of them before they inflict us maximum damage. I imagine this area of trees as a circle with that being its center. Our goal is to bring them here and surround them. They are the most annoying unit, difficult to catch, and they can hurt us a lot if we let them finish all of their ammo. Their formation is a little bit wide. We need to make the two units more compacted, so we can prevent them from engaging our troops on both sides of the trees. Come here, jerks. Nobody is here. Yeah, it's safe. We must not have our guys in skirmish mode so we can do precise moves and keep them in close distance so they are locked on us. Now close the gaps. You there. We need patience, not attacking immediately and frighten them. That way our guys can have time to get at their position. You there. Some details to completely secure no way out. The triarii are slow, but if the cavalry manages to catch and immobilize the enemies, any given triarii that arrives to engage will be tremendous boost because it's the most suitable unit versus cavalry. They are so dead now. Meanwhile, step 2. You get to their Carthaginian cavalry. Already? They shit their pants. Is that an eagle? Men! The gods are on our side! In step 2, we are luring the two Carthaginian cavalry units. This must be done quickly after the skirmishers so we can finish them before their first wave of infantry arrives, because they have slingers who can harm us. Unlike most battles of the Second Punic War, at Zama the Romans were superior in cavalry and the Carthaginians had the edge in infantry. This Roman cavalry superiority was due to the betrayal of Massinissa, who had earlier assisted Carthage in Iberia but changed sides in 206 BC with the promise of land, and due to his personal conflicts with Syphax, a Carthaginian ally. Quick shot ability. We preserved our remaining projectiles for them. If any ammo is left, we can use it for Hannibal's cavalry guards later. Hannibal's army had abandoned its horses in Italy because of a lack of shipping space, and Massinissa's defeat of Syphax, who was Carthage's ally, had dried up the supply of Numidian cavalry for Hannibal. Thus, even with the recent addition of 2,000 Numidians, the Carthaginians fielded only 4,000 cavalry. The AI here is smart, and if it sees spearmen, it avoids charge with its cavalry. That's why here we are covering our slow retreat to get them into this bracket where they will suddenly see us, and we will not leave them an alternative choice. Now! Go, go! Cavalry, close block their retreat. Great! You can walk there now. They are approaching. Come on. Just die. Nice. We can run away before these slingers arrive. Well, just in case, I will send those to frighten them and gain some extra time. Well, the second were fearless, stood their ground. Lost 3, but my spearmen are now more relaxed. Now in step 3, we need to make use of any small advantage we can get. This hill serves good. There it would be much better, but I want to avoid corner camping. The Triarii did an excellent job in their task of dealing with cavalry, which was their expertise. But are they now useless to us? No, on the contrary. They have the bigger morale and bigger armor and defense in our army. And not only these, but also they have this excellent ability of defensive testudo. That's why they will form our first line of defense. An iron meat shield against the enemy shots of slingers and the spears that these Galatian mercenaries are going to throw at their charge. Our Hastati and Principes have projectiles to throw, the so-called pylons. Our target is, only after they have thrown every last one of them on our enemies' heads, then they can go in melee and insert them in our first line of defense. It's similar to the strategy we had in the Battle of Cannae, but now it's Rome's payback time. This unit on skirmish mode will go and keep the rest of the enemies busy. The first enemy wave consists of 3 mercenary Gaelic swordsmen and 2 Balearic slingers who will arrive soon, and another 3 mercenary swordsmen behind them. We will wait for their infantry to separate from the slingers so our horses can attack and destroy them easily. I will reposition them because I want narrower gaps between them.
Missile-armed raiders! Principes! Triadi! Numidians!
I am tempted to ride there and intimidate these slingers to fall back so I can achieve fewer shots firing from them, but their second unit is far away and won't be scared. They will shoot at us. Well, just a bit. No casualties, nice! This saved us from at least one wave of shots. I want them more on the inside, because sometimes they overpass the narrow first line and come to attack the wider second, which is on their side. Raise these shields, men! Beautifully! You can start coming slowly, and when their infantry is engaged away, you can trample these slingers. After they throw their javelins, change to square formation, which has better defense for melee fight. Okay, good. Now, as we said, totally we have 10 units with pylons to throw. In my previous tries, the initial battle plan was to get 2 units of hostati here on their backs, throw the pylons and finish them off with the cavalry. 2 more hostati on the next 3 mercenaries, keeping the rest 6 of hostati and principes with the 2 velites for the sacred band and hoplites, and finishing the last wave of citizen militia and Libyan infantry with cavalry charges on their rear. After that, I thought that with this way we are keeping off the battle for too long our best infantry unit, the principes. We need adding swordsmen to this front line so they can deal bigger damage to the enemies. For that reason I changed it and started using the principes firstly and the hostati in the end so that the principes will be max used. But then again, those hoplites and especially the sacred bands, even with that hard missile hitting, they were standing long enough to cause us big losses. And that's why now in this attempt I am only using the triarii and the horses. Much better for my horses to charge on sword and mercenary units with poor morale rather than pouncing on spear units, who are excellent against horses. Especially the sacred bands have even more boost against enemies' charge, with counter-attack feature to increase their stats. As we saw, the cavalry did single-handle the job fast and good. That means even more pylons for us to throw on the freaking hands of sacred bands. This second unit of Numidians is sent there to try to divide them while we are killing here the rest of their first wave. We need to come closer and trigger any of the citizen militia or Libyan infantry. It is often argued that, if Hannibal had received proper material reinforcements from Carthage, he might have succeeded with a direct attack upon Rome. Instead, the war in Italy settled into a strategic stalemate. Hannibal constantly sought reinforcements from either Iberia or North Africa. His troops who were lost in combat were replaced with less well-trained and motivated mercenaries from Italy or Gaul. The commercial interests of the Carthaginian oligarchy dictated the reinforcement and supply of Iberia rather than Hannibal throughout the campaign. It suits us that the second unit was just behind them and they didn't throw any javelins before clashing into our triarii. They are already splitting! A second charge may end it. Great! Now step 4. I will exchange the units. That one with no ammo left will eventually go to the group of citizen militia and Libyan infantry, and the other 2 with their ammo will go to shoot and try to kill Hannibal's guard. In the historical battle, their second line consisted of the fresh recruits from Carthage. But now, as a second wave, I prefer to face their third line with Hannibal's elite soldiers in order to gradually spend Principe's ammo and insert them in first line, boosting its strength. Their rookie troops will be easier to break in the end too, rather than those freaking tanks, the sacred bands. Okay, come fetch me Hannibal. Like the elephants, the AI is trying to trick us into coming closer. They fake a small retreat and right after that they run towards us.
Numidians! Missile cavalry at your command! Riders at the double! Numidian cavalry at the ready! Strategos!
No ammo left. We will finish them off with our auxiliary cavalry. I should have sent my triarii there too. I'm getting reckless. Now, this takes a lot of time and need much patience. This whole bunch must split into smaller groups. As many as we can. And an important detail is to make them have a fair distance between them so we have the time to finish one and undertake the next one. With surrounding an enemy group, we shouldn't have another enemy charge at our own backs. I prefer isolating and having first these three easier for my triarii Carthaginian hoplites in order to use some principes on them and infuse them in frontline for the sacred bands. Just walking towards a direction, no running, or else they will remove their lock into your unit and come back to join the rest of their bunch. Shit! I could have avoided that. Nine unnecessary deaths. I guess I will have only one of them first. The others are not quite interested. I should bring one from the other side, on their right where they are holding their weapon and are exposed more than the other side where they are holding their shield.
Principes! Double time! At the double! At speed! Quick march! At speed! Double time! At speed!
No, not all of you. Come here. Are you gonna break or not? Just an extra push to intimidate them and break. In this wave, we will only be dealing with spear units, who don't throw any projectiles, so we don't need the defensive testudo. We place our triarii in square formation and just wait. These three sacred bands, it would be sweet to have them last. Come here!
Your orders? Advance! Your orders! Speed! We await your command! At the double! Advance at speed! General! Jupiter gives us strength! Ready! Quick march! Principes! Advance at speed! Principes! Quick march! Get them! Come on! Any of them! Double time!
They have an anti-charge attribute, but I hope if we hit at their rear, they won't have time to turn and kick our asses.
Ready for duty. Sons of Mars, at your service. Principes! Quick march! Your orders. Jupiter gives us strength. Commander. Ready and waiting. Principes! Legatus!
The ideal formation would be to have groups with only sacred bands and only hoplites. Because sacred bands have the encourage ability, boosting their nearby friendly troops. That didn't go perfect. Anyway. Historian Bagnall suggests the withdrawal of the Carthaginian second line was more deliberate and orderly than the ancient sources portray. He believes that Hannibal had hoped that the Romans would rush forward in pursuit at this stage, and that he had prepared an infantry envelopment in anticipation of this. In the event, Scipio saw the potential trap and his troops were disciplined enough to break off their pursuit when recalled. Why the hell did you move?
Advance at speed! Ready! For glory! To advance! Legatus!
They cannot shoot like this. Just a small drop back. They are cooked. Good job, now preserve your ammo for the next ones. I wanted that unit solo. I didn't catch it. Now it's hard to separate those three. They seem compacted. Two sacred bands. We will give it all on them.
Jupiter gives us strength! Surrender! Orders! At the double! Astarte! At the double! Ready! We obey! Hail! Ready and waiting! Principes! Double time!
No, no, don't come on the edge, jerks. We should intercept them. Well, better go for the sacred bands. Maybe I will keep this one for the final wave. What the hell happened here? Damn, more unnecessary deaths that we could avoid. Sorry guys, it's around 5 a.m. and I am getting sleepy here. I said I won't go to sleep unless I achieve something big good here. 19 losses from that mistake. No, don't break. Come back to your general. Let's see if you have the guts to run in front of him. Small gap to charge. Like a glove. This is our best effort so far with the least casualties. Finally, step 5, and in these only the Libyan infantry is dangerous. They have projectiles to throw too. That means Triarii and defensive Testudo for one last time. We don't want them to come too close because they can hurt us with their projectiles. If we just spread them in fair distances between them, it will be enough. Just a correction there, because those horses disturbed their formation by passing from there.
Quick march! At speed! Proud Romans all! Proud Romans all! Double time! Quick march! Double time! Battle ready and eager! Brave Romans to a man! Advance at speed! Ready and waiting! Formation! We obey! At speed! Quick march! Orders! Set! Double time!
Come on, reload! They still have a lot of men. They won't break from that. We need the big guns.
Jupiter gives us strength!
Well, why not? Charge on our troops too. No friendly damage by that. Just a charge shock. That was easy.
Romans, ready for duty!
No firing? I'll take that. If I was more patient, we could have this unit separated from each other too, with safe distances. But I guess then the video would be 2 hours long. I am seeing the end and I'm becoming restless. One last time. This way the burden will be shared. One last time, Scipio.
Jupiter gives us strength! Riders forward! Median cavalry! Legatus! Median cavalry!
At the Battle of Cannae, Rome had relied on traditional tactics using superior numbers to crush an enemy, and from that defeat, Scipio understood that new arts of war were necessary. After Scipio's brilliant reforms to Roman military strategy and tactics, the Romans would go on to conquer the known world.
We have won! The great General Hannibal is beaten! The war is surely over.
Yeah! Damn it! Only 884. That's crazy. My personal best. The Prince of Peace did a good job. And these horses have slain it. And we could have saved at least 28 more if I didn't make some silly mistakes. Well done, men! Polybius states that 20,000 Carthaginians were killed and another 20,000 had taken prisoners, which accounts for the entire Carthaginian army. At least 11 Carthaginian elephants survived the battle to be captured by the Romans. In contrast, the Romans suffered only 2,500 casualties. The two generals met after the battle to discuss terms, and Scipio pardoned Hannibal, who then became chief magistrate of Carthage. Carthage was left with no army with which to continue the war. The peace treaty dictated by Rome stripped Carthage of its overseas territories and some of its African ones. An indemnity of 10,000 silver talents was to be paid over the next 50 years, hostages were taken, Carthage was forbidden to possess war elephants, and its fleet was restricted to 10 warships. It was prohibited from waging war outside Africa, and in Africa only with Rome's express permission. Many senior Carthaginians wanted to reject it, but Hannibal spoke strongly in its favor, and it was accepted in spring 201 BC. Thereafter, it was clear that Carthage was politically subordinate to Rome. The last major battle of the Second Punic War resulted in a loss of respect for Hannibal by his fellow Carthaginians. They blamed him for losing the war and denounced him to Rome, claiming he was attempting to make Carthage powerful enough to challenge the Romans in a new war. Hannibal recognized he would probably be handed over to Rome and fled for Tyre, then to the court of Antiochus III of the Seleucid Empire, and finally to the court of King Phraates of Bithynia, where, in order to finally escape the pursuit of Rome, he took his own life in 183 BCE. Scipio was awarded a triumph in his return to Rome and received the honorific epithet Africanus, literally meaning the African, but meant to be understood as a conqueror of Africa. But soon he was also abused by his countrymen who, forgetting how much they owed him, accused him of being a Carthaginian sympathizer in pardoning Hannibal, of accepting bribes, and misusing funds. He retreated to his estate in Laternum and was so disgusted by Rome's ingratitude that he left instructions in his will that he be buried there instead of in a place of honor within the city. He died of natural causes the same year Hannibal committed suicide. The Battle of Zama not only ended the Second Punic War, but it also established the Roman army as the greatest fighting force since the armies of Alexander the Great. This signaled the beginning of effective campaigns of conquest which would eventually launch the Roman Empire. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did, and if you did so, then please like and subscribe to my channel. More epic battles are coming.